Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your paranormal portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together. Hello, all you wonderful peeps out there. Hello, everybody in chat. How are you doing tonight? I know I'm getting a little bit of an echo, so it's possible Rob needs to turn down a little bit. We'll see. We'll get him in here. But first, let me thank all of you guys for coming into the chat. I see you guys spilling in here. Tonight, I have somebody wonderful for you. I've been talking about him forever, and I would like to introduce to you Mr. Rob Gutro. If he's ready, he can pop in. There he is. Say hi, Rob.
Hi, Rob. Hi, Cisco. Good to be here.
Oh, it's so wonderful to have you. Rob is absolutely, how do I describe Rob? Rob is a prolific author. His books are absolutely outstanding. I own several of them. And the way they are written, they're easy to understand. Even though he is a scientist with abilities, he is a medium and an animal medium, as well as one of the most genuine human beings that I know on this earth. Welcome in.
Wow, how do I follow up with that? Just well, it takes one to know one. That's all I can say.
Blessings. Blessings.
I mean, you have a tremendous heart, and we've talked quite a bit.
Yes.
And it's just to get to know you.
Oh, yes. And you too. It's been a wonderful journey. And we have Kat from Paranormal Heart coming in here to say hi to you, Rob. You've been on her show. Hi, Kat. She says that you are a true gentleman and absolutely a fact. Let me tell you a little bit more about Rob. When I was... I believe I was introduced to you through Kat, and I listened to the interview, and I'm going, that's it right there. Your connection with the other side. I believe it's also your mind and going at it as a scientist, but it doesn't lose anything in the translation from heart to mind and back again, because that's really what it's all about, isn't it, Rob? We're energy. And, how do you feel about that? How does the scientist part of you feel about what happens when we die? Can you take that approach?
You're absolutely right. Sure. So all of the books that I've written are based in energy. And the way I describe it is that we have energies that are within us. Physical energies that are within us, Cisco. And those energies, when we die, combine with our memories, personality, and our knowledge. Now, the physical energies that I'm talking about are like cells multiplying and splitting. You have a little electrical impulses, our thoughts. So there's energy in our bodies. And when our body dies, that energy has to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And what I've learned from talking to people on the other side is that we choose either to stay earthbound in a fixed location, and I call that a ghost, or we cross over into the light and the energies of the cosmos or heaven, and that's what I call a spirit.
Exactly. And that's what we call him here too. When I wrote my book, that was one of the first things I tried to describe. Yeah. And I got that from you a little bit because, earthbounds to me, they're a little different, aren't they? Once you've crossed over, the energy is so different. And I love the way you've described what they use, Rob, differential to the energy they need to manifest. Earthbound compared to spirit. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I've learned, so I've been doing this for quite a while. And I have learned that they both use physical energies like heat, light, water, and electricity. They use those things to get strong enough to communicate with us, the living. But the difference is in the emotional energy range. So ghosts use negative emotions like fear, anxiety, depression, and anger. And spirits use faith, love, and hope. So,
Isn't that
so
wonderful?
whenever we go into a haunted house and you feel anxiety, what you're doing is you're energizing a ghost to communicate with you. And as a matter of fact, Cisco, today went on a paranormal investigation, and there were a lot of ghosts in there.
Wow. Wow. Now, see, chat, that's what I thought was so interesting. Rob is one of the first people that I've ever heard explained that way. So, when we've talked about it on this show, and Rob and I have as well too, is when you see a ghost and you're scared, they use that energy to manifest, or more energy to communicate, or anything like that. So that's a learned behavior, I believe. This is my thoughts now. It's a learned behavior with some ghosts, that's why they scare you, and they get that aha, and maybe it's not just that they're mean or anything like that. It's just something that they've learned, that's how they get energy. They also pull it from other things. We pull it from us. They pull it from other,
Mhm.
electrics going through. So there's the scientist part of the question. And I know there was a lot of the medium's heart in there too. But as a medium and looking at it that way, the same type of thing, what happens when we die to us, the energy part, the science doesn't change, but we've added something to it, I believe.
Yeah, so I want to take a minute and cite there's a famous law called the Law of Conservation of Energy, and it says that energy can't be destroyed; it can only be transformed. Now, um, scientists apply that to other things. They don't apply that to the paranormal, but because I am both a scientist and I can communicate with the dead,
Hmm.
um, I see how it does apply to the paranormal. And I just think energy is the answer when it comes to the paranormal, so that really it's normal. Um,
Yeah, and it is normal. It is normal. And you and I have talked about that a lot. And one of the things we agree on, there's several things Rob and I agree on just 100% completely. We're just snapped right in place there when we met. And one of those is because we believe the strongest energy out there is what, Rob? It's love.
Love.
Love. Absolutely
Love.
love. And this chat and I, we talk about it all the time. It's like, the love can overcome so much. It crosses the divide as far as connects. We've seen uh, spirits who have crossed over come through into the light to help other earthbound spirits go through. Rob has got so many
Hmm.
stories about pets crossing over, loved ones helping them across, loved ones being on the other side to help your pet when it goes across. And that's another thing that this Chad and Rob and I have, is our absolute love for animals. And for you, Rob, it all started with a darling little gray face that's right there behind you, and Aslo Buzz. Is that how it
Yes.
all kind
That,
of
that,
started? At least you're understanding, a little bit more. He helped you really understand. Tell us a little bit about that, if you don't mind. A little
no,
about
not at all.
Buzz.
So since I was a kid, since I was like 14 years old, I realized I had the gift of seeing and communicating with people who passed. My grandfather actually startled me into understanding that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but things didn't. I was too busy with life. And then in 2005, I was gifted this little puppy for my birthday, and he was really sick when he came to me. He was a puppy mill puppy, and we
Oh.
bonded very very quickly because he got pneumonia the first week I had him. So I spent every day with him under a tent and a vaporizer and taking care of him, and that was a tremendous bonding experience
Yeah.
for us. Um, when he was 7 months old, his leash opened when I was walking, and he was killed by a car. And um, he he began communicating with me immediately. He sent me musical signs. He moved things. Um, he did all kinds of things, and and I go into detail in the Pets in the Afterlife one book about him. But he really, what to answer your question, what he did is he threw open the doors for me to
Mm-hmm.
communicate with not only him but all the other pets, all the other domesticated pets. Um, so I can't, just so you know, I can't really communicate with wild animals because they don't associate with us. They don't know our
Mm-hmm.
language, our emotions, our actions, our behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
But domesticated pets, whether it's a cat, a dog, a bird, a rabbit, I've talked to
Mm-hmm.
gerbils and rats,
Mm-hmm.
um, all kinds of
It's amazing.
domesticated pets. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not, is it not just the domesticated part where they can, say, show symbols that you both kind of understand, like a food bowl or, a warm bed, cuddling up in a warm bed, little things like our pets would be able to, maybe curled up on the couch or something. They have symbols or they can show you things that they understand. I believe it's also that love connection, that bond, because we've talked about it, whether, like you said, rats and hamsters and horses and things like that, and the connection. And I also believe, Rob, that they have this I believe they're here to show us unconditional love. I believe their love connection to us is so strong. How do you feel about
Mhm.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the primary lesson that we learn from our pets. Absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
because I think as humans, I don't think we're capable of actually figuring out what unconditional love means.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I say
Yeah.
that as a dog dad. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So
um,
true. So true. And so many people here are saying that. Like Aunt Edna says, my English bulldog still hits the end of my bed sometimes. And I've heard you describe in other interviews, Rob, and in our talks, that signs that they're showing us. So when Buzz came back, he found different ways of showing you, from leading you to
mhm.
other dogs that look like him, maybe on an anniversary, or a friend of yours that knew enough about it to call and go, hey, I just found such and such. And, isn't this, it's a little hello. They find ways to manipulate things. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's so great to talk to a friend who has a photographic memory of everything you've talked about. You're amazing.
Well, it means something. I'm kind of unpacking a little bit at a time to introduce you to the chat, because there's so many things that we've said in the past that were so profound. And
Yeah.
when you and I both know that when you're going for grief, and congratulations, by the way, on the award for the new book for Pets in the Afterlife 3, it has got an award for, how did they explain it, the best grief, a way to help you get through grief.
It's the it won an award for best grief book. One of the best grief books of 2021.
It's
Actually,
fantastic.
I think I can share this.
Please try. That'd be awesome. So, congratulations on that. In a time like this, grief is. I was introduced to grief at a very young age, and I was basically left to roll through it as best I could. But I've never, even with people, living human beings I've loved, it's not been the same as losing a pet. And I think Rob is one of the people that explains that best, and why, we feel that way. Are
Can you
you
see
able to
that?
share?
I think
I
so.
cannot. Let me see. I'm not seeing. Let me see at the bottom here if I've got anything down here I'm not seeing. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Well, for those who are,
Okay.
if it's not sharing, I'll just shrink it down. I'll come back to. Oh, wait a minute. Is that it? Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, that's fine.
At least physically. So for those who couldn't see it, if you couldn't see it, it was Pets in the Afterlife 3 just published this year, and it's Pets in the
Hmm.
Afterlife 3 Messages from Spirit Dogs.
Hmm.
Um,
I
this
have a
is the
couple of your
cover
covers. Oh, I
of the
love
book,
that cover. I have a couple
and
of them, and I can stop this little video if you can see
oh,
this. Let me see here. Hold
perfect.
on 1 second. I just put it together. It's a
There
couple
it
of
is.
your book covers right there. So there it is, the beautiful Weimaraner and the
Yeah, that's
stairs
all of
and
them.
everything. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And there's a couple of, there's a little Buzz. That's Pets in the Afterlife 1, correct? And there's two. And this
Yeah,
one
with just
has
Buzz
horses.
on the top, but the one on the side, that's two.
Okay. And then you have a lot of the case files, the inspired ghost tracking. Now you're also a
Tracking.
paranormal investigator.
Yes,
So
yeah, and that book is full of all of not all, but many of our cases, which are
uh-huh.
crazy because they're all different.
And they are. They truly are. And he's with some very talented people in his group. And they're loving the covers, by the way. The chat is. And he's with a very inspired. I love Troy. And, you've just had the greatest adventures. And I love the way you handle things, back and forth. And, you don't say too much in the beginning. You come back and you almost bumped into the same types of ghosts and stuff, like very much like the John Wilkes Booth one where Troy went after and bumped in. But maybe we could talk about that a little later. Let's see if I've got that
Sure.
other cover here. Kindred Spirits, lovely. Tell us a little bit about this one. Absolutely
Oh
lovely
gosh,
book.
that's one of my favorites.
I know, me too.
And a big shout out to covers. Got You Covered. Lisa Miller does covers for books, and I was turned on to her. And I came up with the concept, and she came up with the face.
Love
and it's awesome. So, long story short, this particular book is very short. It's really cool because when my husband and I met each other in 2005, his late partner came along for the ride, and he's been with us ever since.
Ever since.
So it's like three people in this relationship. But so his name is Ed, and Ed has told me all kinds of things about Tom's life before me that Tom doesn't share. And then I tell Tom, and he says, "I don't like it when you talk to Ed."
Yeah, it can get a little funny in there sometimes. And Ghosts and Spirits, we have this lovely cover here in Ghosts and Spirits.
Yes, so that's the old cover actually. Of,
Okay.
Ghosts
Okay.
and Spirits. It's Ghosts and
Let me
Spirits
see
Explained.
what else
So.
I've got here. All right. Now this one was funny. I don't know if you want to talk about this one yet, but you drew this, did you not?
I did, yeah. So, one thing I do when I go on paranormal investigations is I illustrate the ghost that I see. I
So
used to
cool.
love to draw superheroes, so
It's so
I
cool.
put that childhood talent in use. And this gentleman is in my book, Ghosts of England on a Medium's Vacation. We had gone up to see Guildhall. And Guildhall it's like it looks like a church inside, really. And it was the place where many trials happened during the Tudor period, Henry VIII's time. Lady Jane Grey, who was a queen for 9 days, she was tried there. One of the Guy Fawkes accomplices was tried there. And there were a couple of others. But this gentleman wasn't in Guildhall. He was outside of Guildhall. And when I took a photograph of the doorway, which is now a doorway, where I sensed him and where I was drawing him, there were orbs there. Orbs with designs and colors in them, which means they're actual orbs, because white balls of light are not orbs.
Okay.
So as it turned out, he looks like he's dressed like Guy Fawkes.
Yeah.
If you look up Guy Fawkes
Yep,
on
he
the
does.
internet, as I did when I got home after I drew him, I thought, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. I put that in there to let people know that you do that. You've got several
Thank you.
illustrations throughout your books, and I think it's wonderful to be able to do that. This is what I saw. This is who I bumped into. And then it also helps you too. It's got to be going back, and this is that's the book it's in. It's the when you went to England. Okay, that's the one I was looking for. Look at that beautiful cover. Best New Grief ebooks. Look at that. So I wanted to take us back. I knew this was at the end. I wanted to take us back to it because not only do you understand what people go through because you've gone through it yourself, but you've had the unique look at both sides. And, right now, the number one thing for this show is to help everybody escape the world for a couple of hours and talk about how wonderful and how all these miracles are still going on. And even in grief, I think our pets want to help us more. They're more concerned with us, I believe, than they are with themselves. Is that a true statement, do you think?
Yeah, that's true. And they have shown me that when they make the choice, either they make the choice to pass or they let us know when they want to pass. Um, some of them will, some of them that pass before a pet parent gets home does that because they know that um, for the pet parent to see them pass away would be way too traumatic for them, and they don't want they don't want the last memory of them to be passing away. They want the pet parent to remember them when they were younger, when they were happy and excited, and so forth. So it's just like people, really. In 2013, my mother made the choice to pass away once everybody finally cleared the room. But other people want people around, and pets do the same exact thing.
And a lot of the people in the chat here are agreeing with you, Oracles and Beyond, exactly my thoughts. Pets are so smart. Absolutely. And that's one of the things I get excited about having Rob on, because we don't give our pets and animals, I think, kind of the accolades they deserve. They are very smart. They are very in tune with our emotions, our feelings. I think they know something's going to happen before it does sometimes. And I don't mean just weather, which you know a little bit about, being the fact that you want to tell them what else you do,
I
Rob?
do.
Multifaceted here. You are a meteorologist, are you not?
Yep. Yeah, by trade, I'm a meteorologist,
There
so
you
I
go.
don't blame me for the weather when it's bad. Just credit me when it's good.
But that's so neat because I love the different views that you have on everything. And that's another big thing with me as far as pets. I believe you also said at one time a lot of people worry that they cross over. What's been your experience in how many domestic pets actually cross over, Rob, and how many stay as an earthbound spirit?
That's a great question. So I have found probably about 97, 98% will cross over, and only about 2%, I would say, or less, actually stay as earthbound ghosts. And and the reason for that, Cisco, is that just like people, when we pass, there's always somebody there waiting for us. And it's usually a relative in spirit, or it may even be another pet that someone had that's waiting on the other side. The other interesting thing that I've learned just recently, just this year, I've learned from talking to a dog in spirit that when the dog passed, he ran to the light because he could sense love and
Oh,
peace, happiness on the other side. So he ran to it.
right.
Animals are very intuitive. They read our emotions. So that made perfect sense to me.
And I can imagine too that a lot of times, everybody grieves differently. Everybody goes through the process
Mm.
differently. And I think that the pets have been the hardest for me, like I said in the beginning, because I think it's because, among other things, we can possibly talk to the human. The human understands what's going on. I always feel like when it's a pet, no matter how beautiful I make it, or I mean, to the point of we had to put a cat down. The lights were dim, music, soft meditation music was playing. I had a candle lit, and I held her paw, and I sang to her, and just told her how much I loved her to let her go, to let him go. And I think that
Wow.
was probably so peaceful for that animal. But if it happens where it's sudden, a car or an accident or a sickness,
Yeah, that's what you wanted. I just noticed on the chat that some.
lost you there for a
Mhm.
second. You back? Who was it? And the chat said what?
Somebody in the chat mentioned that their poodle mix passed in their arms, and just to
Yes.
let you know, that's exactly what your dog wanted to do. Um, like I said, some will make the choice to be with you, others will make sure that they pass when you're
It's
not there.
Jackie.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
It's
that's
Jackie.
I just want to I just want to tell you that that's you gave that dog a tremendous gift by not denying that,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's very much appreciated on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
It's choking me up, as a matter of fact.
Yeah,
um,
I understand. I understand. And you've also said one of the hardest things for us, Rob, that you try to come to get across is when we have to do something like that and make a decision to put them to sleep because they're going to be in too much pain. There's nothing we can do. And how does the pets feel like that on the other side? They come back and tell you what?
they do. They come back and they tell me thank you. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they always say thank you to their pet parent for finding the courage to help them cross.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it, because they know they can read our emotions and they know that we're going through turmoil. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really hard thing for us, as
Mm-hmm.
you know, as well as them. But they're very thankful on the other side.
Mm-hmm. And that's just it too. When you gave some advice, I'm sorry I can't remember what book it was in, but it was about what to do if you have to go through something like that. And I want to say to chat and anybody listening in the future, something with Robin, also with the pets, that you may not get a personal message from your cat or your dog or your rabbit or your horse or whatever, but when other people are getting them, almost it's like for everybody. So if you know that 97 or higher percentage is crossing over and they're okay, then chances are yours are too. If you had to make that decision to put your pet out of pain, out of love, that you didn't want them to suffer anymore, and they come back and say thank you, that's for you too. That's a hug from them too. And other advice that you give too, painting, do a poem for the pet, do a picture, some of that advice, Rob, that you've given out in the future. What do you want to add to that? How to get through the grief.
Yeah, there's a couple of things actually. In Pets in the Afterlife 3, I specifically had a chapter written about how to handle grief, and I consulted my good friend Dr. William Charmack, who's a medical psychologist, and he wrote most of the chapter, and I added some things, um, because because dealing with grief is very personal, and everybody, like you said, deals with it in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a couple of things that I found personally, was number one, to email a friend about your dog's declining health or your cat's declining health, or a horse, and just describe it. Just describe what's been happening.
Right.
When I did that, a friend of mine emailed me back. She emailed me my own email, and she said, "Read this as if it was coming from me, and you tell me if it's time to make the right decision." And
Right.
that was very powerful.
Right.
Um, the other thing that I found was look at a timeline of photos that you have taken over the pet's life, and you will see you can't see the decline of someone's health when you're living with them day to day.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at snapshots from year to year, and you can see the decline in the health.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped me too. Um, in 2020, we lost our dog Dolly, the Weimaraner, and Franklin, a dachshund. And Franklin was 16. Dolly was 1 month shy of turning 16. And they
Mm-hmm.
both passed within 5 months of each other.
Mm. Devastating.
Hardest year of my life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know this kind of sounds odd because both my parents have passed,
Mm-hmm.
but we feel grief more deeply because we are responsible 100% for the life of our pets.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we we raise them. So can I take a moment to explain why the grief is so intense?
Please. All the time you want, honey. It's your show.
Okay. Oh.
Absolutely.
You're so sweet. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do whatever you want.
So, thank you. Well, so this is a really important message for everybody who's grieved over the loss of a pet. It's number one, it's perfectly normal. Number two, it's often more intense to grieve over the loss of a pet than the loss of a human. Here's why. We raise our pets like we raise human children. We take them to school. We teach them how to play well with others. We're happy when they go to the bathroom outside.
Yeah.
We socially integrate them. We'll take, we teach them words like they know when dinner is. We take them to get shots and go to the vet. So we treat them just like human children. They learn our words, they learn our language, they learn our actions, and then they adapt and they learn routine. The only difference, in my opinion, because I'm just a dog dad, I'm not a human parent. In my opinion, the only difference between a pet and a human child is that the pet doesn't grow up and marry someone you hate and move away. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I understand. And it is. The chat's saying it's different. And, just what you said, as you were saying it, we raise them like our babies. They are our family. And I also think there's something there with just, we're not sure. There's that validation again. Humans need so much validation, I think, when it comes to whether we're hearing loved ones from the other side, getting a reading, or anything like that. And we always, does he understand what I'm trying to do? Does he understand the medicine is helping, even though he doesn't like it? Or even when we take him to the vet, they're so scared, a lot of times, different things like that. Just taking a dog to get shots. They're not understanding, well, we're doing this for this. We're doing this. So I think that's part of it, too. I think there's a lot of understanding in the eyes, though, Rob. I mean, if you've ever had to look into the eyes, the sick eyes of a pet. And I never got... Yeah. Yes, they have pain. Yes, they don't quite understand what's happening. But I still think they're worried about us. And I think sometimes with our grief, just like people, when we lose somebody, they're tied to that grief. It's like a tether, almost like grief and that anguish. Pets come back, they're worried about us. And I think that sometimes our loved ones, after they just passed, are tethered to that in a way, too, until we finally let it go. How many times have you heard you got to let them go? I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. And it's so sad, And then we get those happy times, Rob, when they come back and they visit us in a dream. And you can smell them and and they do those little things that we forgot they did, or they wag the tail in that way. And you were the one who told me to do it. This is the man right here who said, try this. And you told me about before you go to sleep, to ask your spirit guides to see if they could bring. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because it helps so much. And you know what else it does? It puts us to sleep, Rob, thinking about loved ones. And instead of grieving, like, come see me, I want to know you're okay. I want you to know I'm okay, and that we're still connected. I think it's such a beautiful way to go to sleep, right? Tell us about it, and I'll shut up. I'm sorry.
It's company. No.
I get so excited.
Right, I mean, you remember everything we talked about. I wish I had your mind.
Oh gosh, no, you don't.
I read everything down.
You'd go nuts. It's a mind of a redhead. It's too much. Danger, Will Robinson. That's very sweet. Thank you.
So I do recommend that before you go to bed, if you would like a visit from your pet, and who wouldn't, to ask them to come into your dreams. And usually over 2 weeks of time they will, unless you are coping with intense grief. Because grief acts as a block. Grief acts as a block to all signs, not just dreams. It
Yes.
prevents you from recognizing anything. And my main rule here is that when it comes to spirit, there's no such thing as a coincidence, not at all.
Hmm.
Um, I I did a I was I was sitting with a friend having coffee the other day, and um, he uh, he was talking about his dog, and his but before he started talking about his dog showed up, his childhood dog, and I said, "Did you feel guilt over your childhood dog?" And he said, "Yeah. How did you know?" And I said, "Well, because that's what your dog is telling me, and your dog wants you to know that there's nothing to feel guilty about." Um, it's a whole nother story. I won't go into it. But then he started talking about just moving into town, and he didn't know anybody. He only met one of his neighbors several times, and he thinks it's important to get to know somebody in a new building so that they can check on you from time to time. Um, and I said, well, you need to approach him. And I said, I think that is going to happen for you. And I said, you may get some help. Well, sure enough, he called me and he said the minute he got on the elevator, that neighbor got off the elevator. And out of all the people in his skyscraper building, and he and I said, it was your dog and spirit that led you to go to the elevator at that moment, at that very time, knowing that your neighbor would be there and you would be able to ask him. And sure
Hmm.
enough, he did. And you know
Hmm.
what? And the the next thing I know is that now they're communicating and they're not worried about, because the
Right.
neighbor ironically had the same concerns. He didn't know anybody in the building. So
Hmm.
so his spirit dog from when he was a child, he's now in his 50s,
Hmm.
came through and helped him with a problem. And same thing for everybody listening.
Absolutely, absolutely. And my heart goes out to Hell 21. She just lost her dog. I had to put him down at 16 and just found this stream. So there you go. This is for everybody that's hearing it now. It's for everybody that's going to hear it in the future. And also, there is a lovely episode with Rob and I on my YouTube channel. And go back and listen to that too, because I guarantee we touched on things there that we're going to miss on this one, and vice versa. So please go back, and I'll tell you why. There's little snippets. What Rob just said. Your loved ones in spirit, your loved ones in spirit include your pets, and they can do miraculous things on the other side. What Rob just said, as far as that timing, there's no coincidences. The
Mm-hmm.
timing, you might feel like you're going to take a left, walking another dog, and then all of a sudden you see a dog. This happened to Rob. So a friend of yours saw a dog that looked just like Buzz, did she not? On the
Yeah,
anniversary of his birthday? Tell us a little bit about that. Just to give him an
it
idea
was
how they
even
work.
it was even more wild than that. Um, so yes, um, after it was after Buzz passed, and I think it was around the anniversary of his birthday, what would have been his birthday in July. She texted me and she said she was out running in her neighborhood. Her name is Lisa. She's a good friend of mine. She lives up in Maine. Um, she was living in New Hampshire at the time, and she used to go jogging all the time. When she was running, um, around the time of Buzz's birthday, and she didn't even know when Buzz was born, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Out from the woods came a Weimaraner, running right at her with a collar on,
Mm-hmm.
and um, and no leash. Um, it turned out the Weimaraner belonged to a gentleman who was running after the dog. Um, the Weimaraner came and stopped dead in front of her. Lisa looked down, petted the dog. She loves dogs, and she looked at his tag, and his tag said his name was Buzzy, Buzzzy. So it had a
Mm-hmm.
Y on the end of it. And she said, I even freaked out more because I turned the tag around and the owner's name is Rob G, same as mine. And she said, what are the chances
What
of
are the
this? She said, I've
chances?
never seen this dog before.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so as it turned out, it was the anniversary of Buzz's birthday.
Isn't
That's
that
how it works.
something? So
Yeah.
stop talking yourselves out of it. Human beings, listen to me. Stop talking yourself out of the miracles. Okay? Because yes, they can do stuff like that. They can they'll do little pitter pats. You explained once again, Rob, about, like you'll feel the cat jump on the end of the bed. That
Mm.
happened to me. But the cool part about it, if that's not just cool enough, that after this was about 3 days after the cat had passed, the one that I took and we had him put to sleep, and I played the music
Mhm.
and held his little paw, and I had to do it for somebody else because they really weren't. They knew they couldn't do it, and I said, "I've got this," so I had to do it for a loved one that couldn't do it. And
Wow.
it was the things that have happened. I've had friends that come with me when I've had to do it. Pets bring us, I think they bring out our love. you know
Hmm.
Even people that
Yeah.
can't really show it to other human beings can show it to pets. Like they always say, well, you're that spinster with the 3 cats, or so what? That woman's probably expressing more love, you know what I mean? Then, if she doesn't want to deal with humans, because the cats understand or the dogs understand. My best friend have always been animals, because they do get it. And you try to give them so much, just like you would for your kids. My cat has more toys. Looks like somebody blew up PetSmart in this living room. I promise you. But I guarantee if I go out again, I'll go out the door and said, I'll bring you back something. Like if I don't
Hmm.
bring him back something. And don't think he doesn't expect Christmas. I don't even know what Santa's going to do this year because he's got everything under the sun. But this cat expects Christmas. And it's just, you think I'm kidding. I had a dog that used to sleep under his Christmas stocking only on Christmas Eve. That is the only time
Wow.
he would ever sleep under the Christmas stocking. And he wouldn't try to get at the stocking at all. He would just sleep under it and look at me. I'm like, yep, that's yours. You can't have it till tomorrow morning. And he would wait. And I still hang that stocking up every year. He's been gone about 10 years now. And, the things we do to get through, and there's nothing wrong with any of it. And I highly recommend those 3 books from. I would recommend all of Rob's books, and all of my mods are dropping all of your links, your YouTube channel, your links to, I believe, your Facebook page, and that's where you can get your books, right, Rob? You can go where?
Well, they can get them all on Amazon.
Okay, good,
It's
good.
easier to do it on Amazon. And just so you know, because I'm a self-published author, I set the price on these books, and I marked them as low as I could go. So most of them, all of them, are below $10, and the ebooks are $3.99 or below. So I just want to bring people healing.
Exactly.
There are people out there that just want to make a fortune, doing what they do, but that's not me. I mean, I'm a meteorologist. I have a career. I just want to help people. So,
Exactly. And he's genuine, folks. I mean, when even on your paranormal investigations now, I want to kind of move from the animals just a titch, but is there a special story on the animal, something that you heard from one that crossed over? I know you have many of your own personal ones, but what are the ones that taught you the most about this, or changed your mind, or intrigued you, where you just went, wow, I didn't think my mind could be blown anymore, and there it was?
yeah, wow, gosh, there's so many stories. One of my favorite stories, I think, is in Pets in the Afterlife 3, where a dog gave me a number. Now, pets will give me numbers. Pets, because pets know numbers. They
Okay.
know, they can tell me, um, the month of April, and they'll know that it means something special. Um, but sometimes pets can tell me numbers, and that can mean a time that you're looking. You have to look at the clock, and they'll be around. You'll feel them, or a date, or something like that. But in one particular case, um, a gentleman wrote me, and he had a black lab that passed, and I just love this story. So the black lab gave me all kinds of signs, and the one thing that he told me that I didn't get, and neither did the dad, was the number 512. Um, so I sent this in an email to his dad, and he wrote me back, and he's super nice. And he said, I don't know what that means. And I said, well, I don't know what it means either, but maybe over time you will. This was in the summertime. Well, in January, he wrote me back, and he says, you may not remember me, but you gave me a reading from my lab, said the number 512. I had no idea what it meant. He said, full disclosure, I'm a doctor. I was seeing a patient in my office. My patient had suffered from a collapsed lung. When I went to write the number down, the coding number, it was 512. And he said it was a collapsed lung that led to my dog's passing.
Wow. See,
How do you
guys,
explain that?
You can't. But to see they're with us all the time, even after they've passed, I think they connect in, and they stay connected to that love. They probably know when we need a little visit more than anybody else, just a little boost. You can't explain the stuff they do here in the living. I mean, I used to have a dog that knew I was coming when I was a mile away. You can't hear my car didn't make any kind of crazy sound or anything like that. All those things. They know when weather is going to change, the pressures change. I always watch the animals for everything. You can watch the animals again for we've all heard it before too. They're great little paranormal investigators. I had a lady here in the chat tell me her dog was barking at something in the corner she couldn't see. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so there's two things I want to get. Somebody in the chat room asked about reincarnation. I want to touch upon that too. But
Sure.
Yes, paranormal investigation. We took our dog Dolly on a paranormal investigation, and that story is in Pets in the Afterlife 1 with Buzz on the cover. Mm-hmm. I have learned that dogs and cats have different physiology in their eyes and their hearing. They can see faster movement that we can't see. So spirits move at a faster vibration. That's why they can see ghosts or spirits. They also hear at different levels that we can't hear. If you think of a dog whistle, we can't hear a dog whistle being blown, but dogs and cats can hear it. When you're on a paranormal investigation, you can ask a question to a ghost, for instance. You may not be able to hear it, but if you play the recorder back, because digital recorders record at different frequencies, you can hear a response. So dogs and cats can hear and see ghosts and spirits. So that's the science behind it.
There you go. Do you want to see if you said you wanted to answer Donnie here? He had a question about reincarnation.
Sure.
Do pets eventually reincarnate? Do they ever come back as people?
All pets will reincarnate, but I have found that they typically do not reincarnate in this lifetime. What they do is they wait for us in the light, like our relatives in spirit, like your mother or your grandmother or your uncle. They're going to be in the light waiting for you, and your dog's going to be there too, or your cat or your horse or your bird. They're all going to be there. What happens though is they will come back when you come back. But you may see a new pet exhibit some of the same habits that your pet in spirit is used to do. What that means is that your pet in spirit is actually training the new pet to do something they used to do. So you'll know that they're still around you.
How about that one?
And I learned that from a little Chihuahua named Chico, who appeared to me mysteriously in a session and was training another black lab, how to be a better dog.
Isn't that something? And, I thought it was really cool. There's a little story that you have, and, we can take this anywhere you want to go, but I can't let you come out of animals without having you tell this little story about 3 treat time and little Franklin.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
God bless his little heart. Could you tell that?
Oh boy.
I know it's hard, but it'll help people so much to just understand the things to look for. We're so busy in our lives, Rob, and I think that's how we in some of us got in a mess. We just forgot that family was the most important, and the little things are the most important. And if we listen to this story, watch your other animals, watch, things that happen around you. Let's not be so busy in our day to miss these little miracles. Tell us, Rob, what you remember about that.
Okay, sure. It was only a year and 5 months ago. So in our house with our dogs, we had four dogs a year and a half ago, and we have what's called free treat time at 8 o'clock. They go out, they come back in, they all line up in a row,
It's so cool.
and they get free treats, and they can count to three. I give them signs like with the finger. I go one and two, and sometimes I'll wait and they don't move. And then I'll say three, and then they get their
Yeah,
own
then they
treat,
jump. Yeah.
and and then they disperse.
Hmm.
It's they're so smart.
Hmm.
So right after Franklin passed, Franklin is a dachshund, and you know if you have a dachshund, dachshunds never miss any food. So um, it was about 8 o'clock, which is usually three treat time, and I was standing in the kitchen, and I was in the corner, and I called to all the dogs, the other dogs, three treat time. Well, suddenly the left hand side of my body got ice cold. This was in May. The other side of my body was warm, regular temperature, and I actually had my husband feel my arm, and he said, what is the matter with you?" And I said, "Franklin is here.
Hmm.
Um, he's here because I said three treat time, and he
Hmm.
doesn't want to miss it."
He's gonna miss a treat.
Sure enough, Cisco, the other three dogs, the three living dogs, lined up in the kitchen, and they left the spot for Franklin.
Hmm.
They saw him.
They saw him.
I didn't see him,
Hmm.
but they saw him, and they left his spot. So there were two on one side and one on the other side,
Hmm.
and Franklin's spot was in the middle.
Right there.
And that just killed
It's
me.
yeah. It's so amazing, and and I didn't want to reach for those emotions, but I think tonight, like I said, we've got Hell 21 in here, just put down their dog. So many people here lost their pets, and one thing I want them to understand, again, love lasts forever. They're right there with you. They're
It
going to
does.
reincarnate with you. They're waiting on you. And I can attest the fact that if you don't believe myself, you don't believe Rob, you don't believe the pets that keep coming back to give you confirmation of this, I can tell you I have a mother on the other side. She's been there since 1976. And I also do animal rescue like Rob does, and cats, dogs, you name it, birds. I feed everybody outside. I just got done feeding a banquet to a group of raccoons out back in my woods. I mean, I feed everybody. And I can hear that woman screaming from whatever realm she is, "Quit sending me cats." Because I just know she's over there receiving everybody that comes over, because I told her, you just hang out, watch them till I get there, and I'll get them from there. The same argument we've always had as a mom and a girl is, I'll take care of them when I get there. You just got to watch them for me. So I can
That's awesome.
attest that they do cross over, and they are with you, and love never dies. And that's why I love Rob so much, because he sees it all the time. And, it's also amazing to me as a medium and a paranormal investigator. I know there's places that are very hard for you to go. I get that myself. A lot of
Mm,
people here have abilities, or empathetic, or, we all have that intuition and ability, whether we use it to strengthen it and work on it or not, or ignore it. But I have a hard time with going to, like, say, malls. Hospitals don't bother me so much, because I don't I don't know, funerals homes not as much as a Walmart. And I don't know if it's the anxiety, I don't know what it is. But for you, Gettysburg is hard for me. Feels like that weight has been
that was
dropped on
awful.
your chest.
Yeah, it's awful.
You get horrible headaches, do you not?
I get headaches in the back of my head. Yeah, but
Hmm.
yeah, Gettysburg. When I go there, it sounds like you're in the middle of a stadium and it's packed with people, and they're
Hmm.
screaming at you, and they all want your attention, and it's overwhelming.
Mm.
That's how I can describe it.
Hmm. And they're all screaming because they know that you can, hey, he can hear us. And they're
And he can help
all
me.
at the same time, and he can help me, and it's all at
Yeah.
the same time. So, all of those shows that you see where, I think Ghost Whisperer was one of the cutest ones they did because it was a little town and everything, but where they're just going about your day and bam, there's one. Well, when you walk into Gettysburg or Antietam or something like this where there's been these horrible battles, you had said it was like having all these, just all of them screaming at the same time. And to just pick out one, okay, let's deal with you, is so difficult. So, how do you deal with that? Because pretty much everywhere you go, somebody's died, there's been a massacre, a war, there's been history everywhere we walk. So, how do you deal with that in the daily life as a medium?
You know, it's kind of it's about tuning out. So when I was at the Baltimore Comic Con yesterday, and I was talking to somebody, and they were a group of people that were off, and they were kind of loud, and I could hear them, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. I couldn't identify what they were saying. That's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like it is that when you're paying attention to what's in front of you,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of it is all noise in the back and you can't make it out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the way I look at it. But
Mm-hmm.
I will say that England was an exception
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I was going to
because they
say.
can't.
So, and you
Yeah.
get on a plane and go to England. That must have been an experience for you. I've heard you bumped into a few people there.
Oh my gosh, there are a lot of dead people there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we already talked about the Guy Fawkes look-alike there, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So, and whenever I travel or whenever I go on investigations, I take a book with me.
Okay.
And I write everything down that I experience, and then I sketch them out, as we mentioned earlier. So that whole vacation was doubly interesting, not only historically, which is why we went, um, but also talking to dead people, because the dead people that I talked to gave me some insight into their lives
Mm-hmm.
and what was going on. So um,
Interesting. Interesting. Is that where you bumped into
I
the monk? Was there a
yes,
monk?
there was a monk
So,
in there. Yeah,
would you
Westminster
briefly
Abbey.
tell us a little bit about that? Because I've used that story a couple of times. I get the questions sometimes of, do ghosts just after some time just evaporate and diminish and go off and that's it? How, what's the life expectancy of a ghost? How come we don't see older ghosts? These kind of questions, and I think it's just because our vantage point, what we're seeing, or they say where it's in period close, you know, I don't know what that is, but I don't think there's an expiration date on ghosts. What do you think, Rob?
No, I don't think there is either.
Okay.
When they opt to stay, when they get trapped, um, even ghosts that what I have found too is that, and that's a great question. What I found too is that when a structure that they have chosen to inhabit for the rest of their afterlife
Okay.
has been demolished, they go to a nearby structure. Um, that happened in England. There was a ghost that was fought a battle in England, and it was the site of his greatest defeat. And the only structure left standing from that period of time was Thornbury Castle. So he decided to haunt it, and he haunted my bedroom. But
That's a
that's a
whole
whole
nother thing.
chapter. But,
So,
but
and you know that, go ahead.
I found out his identity. So,
Mm,
and then I
wow.
learned who he was and why he was there because he gave me
Amazing.
his name.
Who
Um,
else did you bump into there? And I mean, with that monk you said was in Westminster, and didn't he say that he was going to, if I can remember correctly, it was almost like a self punishment because he had done something, betrayed a friend or something, and he was punishing himself. Is that the
yeah,
one? He'd been there
I,
for quite a few hundred years, had he not?
yeah, yeah. I think 500 or 600 years. I can't remember actually about him.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I don't think you talked to him much. He was a quick bump in, and you were just getting, that he knew he was dead and just wasn't interested in having a talk. It was just that he was there and was punishing himself for it's in your book,
Yeah,
Rob.
that's right. I know. Hey, I'm over 50.
I know, it's so
Come on.
funny. But see, that's one too. Now, were you, was it the one where, what's her name ran through you? Looking for her head.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was
The
it Anne?
fourth wife of Henry VIII.
Was it Anne Boleyn or no?
No, it wasn't Anne Boleyn. No.
No.
Gosh,
Somebody in chat
I
will
can't
say
think of
it.
her name.
Sue, who was the fourth wife of I've got mods like Black Ops, I'm telling you.
Catherine
The
Howard.
fourth wife. There you go.
Catherine Howard.
There you go.
Catherine Howard.
My
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. So, so here's something fascinating. I just checked Amazon, and I am so surprised. I published that book in 2016. It's still in the top 100 books for England travel.
Isn't that great?
I'm like,
Congratulations.
wow.
Yeah, it
Well,
is.
thanks.
And reading it is
but I
like a
think it's cool.
travel. Yeah, it is absolutely. And some of the cool things about it was I thought it was kind of cool that sometimes you forgot where you were, and then something would happen, and it would make you think, "Where am I? What who was that just ran through me?" And you kind of went at it on a kind of a backdoor kind of way. Whereas a paranormal investigator, you go in there first and foremost. I love how your team. Rob is where I got the idea for the chocolate to raise your endorphins and your frequency. We're real big on trying to keep that frequency high.
Yeah.
The chocolate is a great idea, and that works because it raises your frequency.
Endorphins, it makes you feel good. Yeah, it
There
gives
you
you
go.
positive energy. So there's another question in the chat about
Go
a
ahead.
T-Rex
Go ahead.
ghost, but before I get to that,
Sure.
yeah, and I've actually answered that question because it all goes back to animals.
Okay, cool.
And there are a couple more animal things I wanted to talk about too.
Sure, go right ahead.
In terms of England, though, just to give you an upfront about this, so my husband Tom loves Henry VIII and the Tudors and all that stuff, and that's his thing. I've never paid attention to it at all. So he's the one that worked with the travel agent, set up all the whole trip, and I knew nothing about any place. But every place we went was associated with the Tudor dynasty.
Okay.
And when we got there, I'm like, okay, where are we now? So
yeah.
And it was fascinating because I was talking to dead people who were telling me about what the place was and how it was used and so forth. So, and I actually got one of the chapters in Ghosts of England is Heathler Castle. I got a guided tour by Anne Boleyn's brother George. When I walked in that front door, George came to me. And Tom knows my abilities, and Tom is somewhat sensitive too, but not to the degree I am. And I walked in that door and I got tapped on the shoulder, and I heard a gentleman in British English say, "My name is George." And I'm like, good for you. I don't know who you are.
Yeah, wow. Yeah.
So I looked at Tom and I said, Tom, there's a young gentleman here. And he said his name is George. I said, does that make any sense to you? And he said, yeah, this is Anne Boleyn's house, or her family house. George Boleyn was her brother that was executed by Henry VIII.
Wow.
I was like, oh, okay.
Wow.
So George Boleyn proceeded to actually walk us through the house. He walked with us, and he told me about a childhood incident that he had in one room. He told me about another room where Anne Boleyn's bedroom was, bedchamber. He told me about a year that he was most proud of Anne Boleyn. And I had to look up all these things afterward, and I found out they were all true. It just freaked me out.
It's mind-blowing.
But, anyway, Ghosts of England is a really cool book.
Yeah.
And Tom
Lots
was
of
a
surprises.
ghostwriter.
Very cool. Very cool. What do we do? You said something about a T-Rex ghost. What? Do we have ghost dinosaurs? Was that a question that you wanted to answer?
Oh, that's okay. So we'll jump back to animals and dinosaurs.
Okay.
Yeah, so the reason that we don't have ghost dinosaurs is really because of what I said about animals sensing what's in the light.
Hmm.
So when animals sense, all animals have the same ability to sense what's in the light. They sense peace and calmness and love, and that's why they all have crossed over. So, like I said, only 2%, if
Hmm.
that, stay behind.
Hmm.
And I have never run into a dinosaur ghost.
There you go. Sorry,
So that's
Patriot.
why.
Sorry, Donnie. No dinosaur ghost. And also, it would probably go with more of what you said in the beginning too, as far as the wild animals that aren't connected. They just go into the next thing. It doesn't mean that they don't cross into the light. It just means that they're not connected to
Yeah,
you. To you. And I,
it's
again,
instinct. Yeah.
yeah, and it's that thread, it's that golden thread of love that connects us, that golden thread of love light that connects us to our loved ones and our human. It's the only difference, I think. And again, I think love can really conquer anything. It's the strongest energy out there. I mean, I've seen Ghost for many years getting ready to be crossed over, and all they needed was a little conversation, a little direction, and kindness. Once everybody started putting out that love light, and for total strangers, strangers separated by a couple hundred years. It's an amazing thing to see. And the mom, she just, you could sense she had her children. She was trying to, she came out of Civil War times. It was in Gettysburg. And over the ovulus came, I said, honey, all you got to do is connect it to the love. The hardest thing is getting somebody who has not been shown love in a very long time to recognize what that used to feel like, you know.
Hmm.
And that's what happened with her. And I'm like, this, the way you're holding your children, that's love. Let us show it to you. Let's bring that warm and that light. And the last thing she said before she crossed over was, that easy? Like all this time, it was that easy just to connect, but she was in fear, protecting her children in the dark, and it's just an amazing, amazing thing. You crossed, so I want to say, someone into the light. It was a dog, was it not? And
Yes,
you did what? You tossed a treat? Do you
I
remember this
did.
story?
After I opened the door
Tell
to the other
this.
side.
Tell this. It's amazing. Listen to this.
Well, you have to think like um, pets would be
Hmm.
in life and what they would do in life. So the only way I could get a dog to cross over is to encourage them with a treat. So after I opened a portal to the other side and I called upon his relatives in spirit to be there,
Hmm.
then I want, and he wouldn't go. He still wouldn't go. His relatives in spirit were going, come, 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 and wouldn't go. So finally, I took a treat and I threw it into the portal, and the dog ran after the treat, and then I was
Mm.
able to close the portal.
Mm.
But they behave just the way they do in life. Um, so that said, I wanted to point out a couple of quick other things
Hmm.
that your pets, your listeners, may do. So you may hear the
Okay.
jingle of a collar, you may hear nails on the floor, you may hear a bark, always sounding like it comes from another room. Um, all these things. They can manipulate birds and butterflies and squirrels and rabbits. They can do
Hmm.
that. They can
Hmm.
influence them to behave oddly, maybe
Hmm.
stare at you um, when you're thinking of them, so that you know at that moment that they are responsible for this odd behavior. Um, when I published my first book, somebody wrote me a kind of a snarky note that said, "Oh, Rob Gutro says every butterfly is a sign from beyond." I'm like, no, that's not what I said.
Mm-mm.
it's,
Mm-mm.
it has to be tied to a birthday, anniversary, holiday, or when you're thinking of somebody,
Hmm.
and it acts in an erratic way.
Hmm.
So that's what I mean about don't dismiss coincidences.
Hmm.
Um, Try to make sense of it
Hmm.
and believe it.
Hmm.
Trust your feelings.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
um, there was one other story I wanted to share from Pets 3, Cisco, about um, how people need not worry about their pets on the other side because our loved ones are there. Now, and this is a really emotional story for me, but I think I think a lot of people that are on tonight really need to hear this, because the most common question that I get on email from people is my dog or cat okay in spirit? So this is the answer. The answer is yes. Um, last year, uh, 3 days ago, last year, 3 days ago, I knew that it was going to be Dolly's last day with us in the physical world. She was a Weimaraner, and she was almost 16. And the week, just 7 days before she passed, she was actually able to walk around the block. 5 days before she passed, she was doing agility in the living room, walking around things. And she was a fighter, and she hung on as long as she could for me. And she wasn't in pain. She wore a diaper for a year, but she was fine with it. She didn't bother it, anything. But a disc in her spine slipped within 12 hours, rendering her back legs useless. Now, you have a dog who's in a diaper. She's almost 16. She's very tired. She's 70 pounds. She had looked at me and she said, I heard her say, Dad, I'm tired. I'm done. And we knew that. So, and that happened at night. So we called a mobile vet, and we knew the mobile vet was going to come the next day, and we helped her pass in the backyard, surrounded by our other dogs.
So it's terrible.
Yeah. So that night, as I did for a year, myself and our little dachshund, our dachshund Tyler, who is now 10, we would sleep with Dolly every night for a year in the kitchen. We'd sleep for about an hour and to make sure she slept. She finally got to sleep. Once she got to sleep, I would pick up little Tyler. I would bring him in our bedroom and put him in his bed, and then I would go to bed. I had to make sure that Dolly got to sleep. And Tyler was the same way. Tyler would not get up from that bed until Dolly fell asleep. So that last night, it was like 2:00 in the morning. Dolly woke up and she stood up. She sat up, and she kept staring at the door in our kitchen that goes to the laundry room. And I had no idea what was going on. And I kept trying to tell her to, lay down, and she wouldn't lay down, and she kept staring. Well, I finally looked over there, and Cisco, it was hard. My mom and dad and our friend Ed were there with Buzz and Franklin and Sprite, who had all passed. They were all standing there, clear as day. And they let me know that they were going to be there. After Dolly passed, I got a text message from my friend Ruthie. I sent her a note. She's a medium in Boston. And she said, Rob, I want you to know that Dolly told me that your parents and some other guy were waiting there in the light with Franklin and your other two dogs.
There it is.
So she confirmed exactly what I saw in the kitchen.
She confirmed it.
With Dolly.
She confirmed it. See, even people that can do so much to help other people's grief, and people that, like, I sit here, every night I sit here with you guys and we try to talk through this stuff. We need confirmation too, because it's hard to do it for ourselves, isn't it, Rob? It's hard to do it for ourselves. We see something like that confirms something we already know in our heart to be true. It's still so overwhelming. So overwhelming. And that's a beautiful, beautiful story. So she confirmed it, that they were there. And she had no idea who this other guy was. And there's the...
No, she lives in Boston. I live in Maryland.
Yeah. See? And also what he said was... Go ahead. Take your time. Also what he said is the other pets were there too. Somebody in the chat, I believe it was Jackie, asked, what happens when a pet is lost and not with you and they pass, will they be on the other side? I'd like to tackle that one first. I think
Go
it
on.
all depends on what happened to that pet after they were lost. Were you supposed to raise that pet for 3 or 4 years, get them started and give them a foundation, and then they were supposed to go off and find someone else who needed their love that you showed them even more? You might not be that number one person in that pet's life anymore, but you're still connected in love. So my answer would be yes, if you're still connected in love. But that dog or that cat, this is what happened to me. I lost a kitten, never forgot it. And I was just so brutalized by the memory that I didn't do what I needed to do to take care of this kitten. I was 3. I had a kitten on a leash with a collar out at my grandmother's house. I'm 3 years old. It was Easter. I was in the frilly dress. The kitten got away, pulled the leash out of my hand and got away. I'm running through the woods in this Easter dress looking for this kitten, couldn't find it. I remember my grandparents, wait till my grandfather comes home. He went and looked. My mother came home. She looked. The kitten was gone. And I never forgot it. I never forgot that little kitten. And I worried my whole life with the collar. Did she choke to death? Did she die? Oh my God. It's hard to think about this. To me, it bothered me forever. I sat in front of a medium one day, and she was doing my spirit guides, and she pulled up this cat. She starts describing the kitten, the cat. No, she says, go back further, because I've rescued a lot of cats. I've had a lot of cats and animals in my life. She says, go back, keep going. No, back, go, keep going, but further. I'll go back. Well, I had a kitten when I was 3 that matches that description. That's the one. And I just, you could have, like you hit me with something. I was shocked. She explains to me, you've been worried. There was a collar. The collar fell off after a little time. The kitten found a gentleman who was pretty much a loner, very rarely showed love to the human species, very gruffly man. This kitten warmed his heart. They became best buds, and the cat lived to a ripe old age with the man, showed him love, and then passed in his care at a ripe old age and passed over, and is now one of my spirit guides. This is what the medium told me. She had no way of knowing any of that stuff. The important part of that story isn't just that the kitten was okay and that I had worried my whole life that I had betrayed this cat because at 3, let go of the leash and wasn't a good pet parent. The important part was that that cat had another journey, and that man needed that cat's love more than I did. So think about that too. You know what I mean? It's a simpler way of saying it. I find $10 when I need it the most, but somebody had to lose that 10 for me to find it. You know what I mean? What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing too is that working in rescue, I get a lot of questions from people who say, well, my dog is a rescue. They had an abusive parent before, or not really a parent, I would say, inhabitant. So they wonder if the pet will be connected to them when they pass or connected to the abuser. And the answer is the dog will go where the love is, or the cat will go where the love is.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So it's where that bond of love is strongest.
That's it. That's what we started this with. We started it with love, and we told you all the different ways that they're connected in love to you. And they need a little bit of that too. After talking to wonderful people that understand this, like Rob and other things, I've learned over my life how to deal with my grief of losing human people that I loved at a very young age. Pretty much everybody. Was basically an orphan at 12. And then replacing that and having those pets, and you mean so much, and then they're lost or something happens to that pet. It's a horrible thing to go through. But I think we just lost Rob for a second. He'll be right back, I'm sure. But it's a horrible thing to go through. And there's nothing anybody can say or do to help you through that. There he is. He's back. We got you back. That's fine. Popping
Sorry,
in and
I don't know
out.
what happened there.
That's okay. It's okay. But we were just talking about, nobody can really tell you what to do. You have to find your things. But Rob has wonderful things in his book. He mentions some of the steps, some things that you can do to help you get through to the next phase. Because they're not just teaching us unconditional love. That's what they give us. I think they're also teaching us how to deal with the grief and the loss. It's all a process of life, and they're some of the greatest teachers out there, as far as I'm concerned. Rob, it's
Oh,
animals.
absolutely. Yeah, I've learned absolutely a lot from my dogs. I don't think that I knew what unconditional love was until I adopted Buzz
Hmm.
back in 2005. Um, I was in my 40s. I had
Hmm.
never experienced unconditional love. I mean, you think you've experienced it even with your parents and so forth, but um, the love of a pet it's just different
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
than it is with people.
It is.
And
It is.
that's not to belittle people, but
Hmm. It's different. It is. It's just different. And I think that the cool thing, too, I don't know if you've ever heard this, Rob, and something's telling me to mention it now, so I will. Um, I'm mostly Native American background with a little bit of Scotch. And I've always leaned more towards that that ilk, that the way to respect nature and learn from nature and watch nature, so many things you can learn from it that teaches us to use in our daily life, right? Well, one of the things I always thought was so cool was a lot of the different Native American tribes, especially in the plains, would not go out in the wild to the wild horses and pick a horse. They didn't do that. They would go out and sit amongst them, cross-legged on the ground or on a rock, and let the
hmm.
horse choose them. And
Ah,
therefore the bond would be the greatest, because they believed that the animal knew more of who they matched with by reading energy, who they would most be a good partner with. That's
yeah.
incredible to me. And I've often thought maybe doing the same thing. If you're going in to do a rescue, maybe sit on the ground and let them come to you. And I'm with a cat right now. I'm with a cat. I've got this heavy relationship with this cat right now. And Rob's met him. His name is Mr. Dickens. You've all seen him. I'm surprised he's not up here trying to steal the show and talk to Rob, but he chose me. He came up out of a litter, and he just came up against and just threw himself against me. And I mean, just all in, just caved against me, just collapsed into me. And I was like, okay, buddy, I got you. And we're still together. So little things like that.
That's
Think
awesome.
about things like that. Isn't that just awesome stuff? Was there anything else about the animal books and everything? I highly recommend them
Mhm.
all. The first one, they're a little different along the way. I believe the second one is mostly dog stories, and then the last is, how does that go? They're all a little bit
So the
different.
first one has more science, more of an explanation. Yeah, they
Hmm.
are. The first one has more of an explanation of the science, but it also has chapters by three different mediums that I know that are friends of mine and their experiences with their dogs. Um, so that's pretty cool. The second one is, and by the way, if you read any of these stories, whether it's about a cat or a dog or a rabbit, it applies to any domesticated animal. So even though the player may be a cat, it applies to dogs. Dogs can do the same thing. Um, the second book has like 50-50 cat and dog stories with horses and birds mixed in there. Um, all different signs, just everything you can imagine, from a paw print on a t-shirt, um,
Oh.
to hearing to seeing hearing barking in another room, um, a plethora of things. The third book, which is brand new, the one that won the award, is Pets in the Afterlife 3 Messages from Spirit Dogs. So this
Uh-huh.
book is specifically and only about dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you, Cisco, that Pets in the Afterlife 4 is already together, but it's going to be a
Nice.
couple of years before I put it out. It's Messages from Spirit Cats.
Nice.
Yep.
Very good. And see, that runs the whole gauntlet. And get these and read them and see what you're missing about your loved ones with fur trying to come back and give you messages. Like Rob said, he didn't say every butterfly is a message. I'm saying everybody butterfly could be a message, but you have to pay attention to it. Like the one I had, my mother likes to use a monarch butterfly, and now that I've noticed it, she uses it more and more. Because now every
Ah,
time I see one, I'm like, okay, was I thinking about her? Is this a date? Was I, needing an atta girl or a mile marker? That's how I kind of look at them. And it's always been in very poignant times, in a time when they shouldn't be around. I had one follow in front of a truck, and I had somebody say, well, you're crazy, there's no way a butterfly could fly. And I'm like, you tell me all the science you want. This butterfly came in, he would dip down, fly front, go off, come back, fly up. I've never seen anything like it. I can't explain it. But if you knew what was happening in the truck at the time, I had just gone to pick up my son, who was in ICU for 40 days. I had to rent a truck to get all this stuff back, drive 1,800 miles with a young man who just got out of physical therapy, had a brain injury, had a hard time seeing. I can't see at night. And about 1,600 miles into that trip, I didn't know that I could go on anymore. I'm driving a 26-foot truck. And I can't see. And I'm like, I can't even see the pedals. I'm so close to the darn steering wheel, I can't see the side mirrors. And if you've ever driven a truck, you know how dangerous that is. And we were having some ups and downs, And I said, you got to give me a sign that I'm doing the right thing. You got to get me through this. Somebody's got to give me a sign. Show me something. Butterfly.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I made it. We made it, and everything was fine. So those little things throughout your life, don't miss them. Don't miss them. Don't miss them. Don't be so busy that you miss all the miracles, And don't quit before your miracles happen, Absolutely. And that's why I love having Rob on, because you've just been surrounded by him, and you've been spending so much time trying to get other people to notice these things. And I think it's a wonderful thing that you're doing, Rob. I really do. And
Well,
not
thank
just
you.
trying to understand the ghosts and trying to help the dead and help the living, but help us enjoy our lives more and those precious moments. That's very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and 4 years ago, I came up with this idea to help people even more and help uh, um, the animals as well. So 4 years ago, I came up with this idea to start doing lectures at animal rescues as fundraisers, where they charge a small fee. I travel on my own money. Um, they charge a fee. They take all the proceeds from whatever they make from people who attend my lectures on how pets communicate from the other side, um, and that raises money for the shelter. And the only thing I do is sell my books if they want them. So um, I have been asked. Last year was, of course, COVID, but this is the fourth year I am participating with rescues in New England, several of them. And sometimes they've had me do 3 lectures in an afternoon because the demand was so large that people were grieving and hurting. So I've raised almost $2,000 in a day for a lecture, for
Wow.
a rescue rather. And they've said that it just, those were really great things. So I'm helping dogs and cats and helping people. So
Yeah.
it's really cool. It's
It
it's
is.
such a great gift, and it's all because of this guy right here,
Yeah, little
Buzz.
buzz. Little buzz.
It's all because
And
of
see,
him.
what if, though, Rob, you you didn't notice all the time. I mean, because he tried so hard. You got to read the first book, guys, because there's so much detailed little messages in there where Rob's going, nah, nah, and then his friend will call up and go, you don't understand what I just saw. And he went, okay, he didn't jump right into it. This little Buzz had to really hang in there and show a few things, and all of these animals along the way. I think, within the stories, as you've told, sometimes we get to hear the vantage point of the pet parent or the loved one that was getting the message. And how many emails. Now, what Rob does, and I hear that he's booked up all the way up till spring. But if you do want some information further on, email him. He requires a picture of the pet and the name, and that's it, correct? And he's going to get to it when he can. Yeah, and any questions, and he'll get to it, when he can. Because he does have an actual career on top of it.
Yeah, so the instructions are on my website. They can get to it at petspirits.com or robgutro.com. It all goes to the same place. But like I said, recently something happened where people started finding out about me, and I've been inundated. I have over 200 readings, and I only do them on weekends. And they each, by the way, when I do a pet reading, each one of them takes a half an hour for me. It's not like I can just say, your pet's okay. They say, hey, they'll drop by and come into your dreams. That's not how it works. When these pets communicate with me, like a couple of them today, I did a couple of readings this morning. One of them came jumping up and down, up and down, up and down, and told me all of these things. And so I just sit there and I just type whatever the pet is telling me telepathically, or showing me. And it's just good. It turns out to be like an entire page. And people would think, how in the world do you get a page from a pet? I'm like, well, they live with you their entire life. They watch and hear and So so it may be it's not a small thing.
Well, one of my mods, Jackie, says she is convinced you are an Earth Angel, and you can't convince me you're not. So there you go. There you go.
Thanks.
I told you I have a wonderful chat. All of your links are being dropped here. Andrew says he's heard you speak in person. He's been at Paracons where you are.
Oh, wow.
I'll tell you what,
Our
dear friends, Jim and Dave from KSPS, you did... I think I hooked you guys up. They are the guys that are living right outside of Gettysburg, and they were in the haunted house when they were talking to you, and Mike Simpson was there too. And great interview. I can put the link in the description at the end of the show. But they made me promise that I would talk to you and ask you to please come to the 1912 Hoover House, which is in Waynesboro. PA. What's happened there? I think you would love. I have friends in the chat that were just there recently. They've made a lovely vortex of love, I believe. What they've done is they've incorporated table tipping, familiar spirits who visit, and bring in other loved ones of spirits coming through. They know when you're going to visit, so they kind of line up and wait for the person that's coming. This kind of setup, it's wonderful. The I don't know how to say, the cleansing, the healing, the just the togetherness, and the people that are alive are all terrific to be together and enjoying each other's company and supporting each other, great hearts and intent. That's what that house seems to draw. And then the spirits are doing the same thing. So it's actually this group of people just trying to cross. We got a little girl, Carla. I drove all the way out there. I had no idea why I was going. I never do. I'm sure you feel the same way. You just go and you're there for maybe something might happen. You're not really looking for it. You're just trying to enjoy your day, right? Well, this happened, and it was a little girl named Carla that she wouldn't talk very much to anybody. I was taking the tour with Jim was giving me the tour. The gentleman interviewed you,
Hmm.
and the next thing I know, somebody screams, "Get Cisco!" Well, I go running down and go, maybe this is it. I'm sitting down at the table. It's a little girl named Carla, a little redhead. Her mother, her little brother had. She was supposed to be watching a little brother. He fell down the stairs and died. The mother went loony. I believe maybe she was postpartum, had just had another baby, something was
Oh
wrong.
my gosh.
She wound up drowning the little 8-year-old girl in the tub as a punishment.
Oh my gosh.
So this little girl trusted no one.
I
She had
bet.
a nanny who showed her some love. She loved her. She had a pet, I believe. So they're all trying to talk to her. We're talking maybe about 6, 7, 8 people in a room, all trying to give this little girl love and trust and, just help her. And somebody else gets Cisco. I go running down the stairs and I sit down in the chair. And right away, the table just moves towards me.
Okay.
And it leans up against me like it's if it was a child, it would be pushing against me and hiding its face. That's what it felt like, with using the table to do so. We go through some things, and right away I pick up on her. I mean, for some reason, she wanted to communicate with me. I don't know. We're talking. She liked my hair. Her same color as hers. Right? So we're talking, and I'm trying to go, how do I get this little girl to remember love, Rob? They're telling me the story as I'm going down the stairs. Okay, I got
Yeah.
it, and go. And so we're sitting there doing this. We talked about playing outside in the sun.
Wow.
I said, do you remember when you felt the warm sun on your shoulders and on your hair? I said, you could turn, because I made her close her eyes. She was a peeker. She kept peeking. Let's close your eyes. I could feel what she was doing. I couldn't see her, but in my mind's eye, I could, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
And she was kind of peeking. She was goofing with me, which was great because she was kind of laughing. And I got her to concentrate on how the warm light of the sun felt. And then I said, remember when you hugged your little brother and how that warm went through your body and you felt that tingle of love? And I said, that's a hug. Remember how a hug? We had to walk her through from sunlight and warmth to the warmth of a hug and what love felt like.
Oh my gosh.
And the minute she got it, I said, honey, and meanwhile, people with me are calling in her nanny and the loved ones and her, from people from the other side and her guy, everybody just wait over there. Come on, let's do this. And I said, now, turn your face toward the light, toward the sunlight, and open your eyes. And she's like, it's so bright. And she's walking. As she's walking away, the table pulls off of me and you could feel her go.
Wow. That's
How do
amazing.
you get them to remember love when they weren't shown the love in their
Yeah.
life? That's the hard one. Do you know what I mean? And I think you probably felt a lot of that when you went to England and possibly this last trip to Greece. I don't know. How was that? Was it similar?
It was not quite as active as England, but
Uh-huh.
there were a number of things going on there. But
Wow. Wow.
um,
I think that's the hardest thing though, is trying to get soldiers in battle to remember love.
mhm.
People that weren't shown love. I mean, how would you, as a medium, have you ever come across something like that where they're just not even, they're so agitated, the earthbound, that they don't, is a story come to mind there for you? It's somebody that's just hard to get talked into that, from that darkness into that love light?
Yeah, it just happened today. As a matter
Oh,
of fact,
wow.
um,
Oh, wow.
we, um, my husband and I and our friend Troy, who's another medium on IGT, went to a house that has several ghosts in it, and in the basement, um, a gentleman who turned out to be alive around 1850. Um, he was enslaved, and he was accused of lighting a house on fire and killing the inhabitants within. And then he was it's a horrible story, and he conveyed all of this to myself and Troy today. Um, and he only wanted revenge. He felt nothing but anger. So we couldn't cross him. We couldn't cross him over. But we did ask him, we did bring in light and peace, and we did ask him to stay in one particular part of the basement where he was. He actually came in because the foundation of the basement of the original house was disturbed 3 weeks ago, and that's when he was first detected 3 weeks ago. Because the people have been living in the house, have been living in it for quite a while, like a year or two, or 3 years. And they never encountered him until that basement section was disturbed. But so yeah, he didn't have love in his life apparently, and so because his emotions are so raw, we couldn't cross him over. But we're going to go back and we're going to try it again.
And Jackie says she's absolutely loving this show. Everybody loves you, Rob, and that's the thing. The thing is we love people who are down to earth, and everybody here is trying to get everybody answers, and some of us don't even know what the questions are, let alone what the answers are. And grief, loss of a pet, loss of a loved one, a lot of that is what got us here in the first place, Rob. Like, what's on the other side? Is there anything else? Do we continue on? Does the journey continue? And that's what's got us here. It's not just that we had an experience and try and explain it. Some of that's true, but most of it's because we know that that's going to be in our future sometime. We don't know when, and we want to know, do we continue, and will we see our loved ones again? And I think through these wonderful animals and these wonderful stories, and even what you just told us, what my story and your story, trying to help. This is the living trying to help the dead, because gosh, if it was one of us, or if it was one of you or your loved ones, wouldn't you want somebody to help them? Sure. We don't know who this guy in the cellar is. I don't know who this little girl Carla was, but I did have confirmation 3 days ago that she came through as a visitation to say she was all right, and thanked everybody for helping her.
That's awesome.
And how cool is that? And I'm sure that do you ever have dogs and pets or cats come back and thank you for helping their person? Like, thank you for helping them, this is going to help them, or?
They usually do at the end of every reading.
Wow.
So yeah.
See?
One thing I do want to mention, by the way, is that when folks read my books, all of my books are based on my experiences. Someone said to me recently, and I think maybe it was a comment on, or a review on my latest book. They said, "How do you know the answers on the other side?" And I don't. Nobody knows the answers on the other side. What I have written about are my experiences and what people and pets on the other side have told me. So, nobody has all the answers. We won't know until we're on the other side. That's what I say. But we can give you an idea about what's there, and that's what I think this program is trying to do, and that's what I'm trying to do, and what Cisco's trying to do is to give you some kind of idea of what happens afterward. And it's everybody needs to go to the light, because that's where the love is. And it's love. Love is the greatest energy. So just that little disclaimer out there.
Absolutely, because I think that's the whole thing. If we just know those two things, you'd be all right. You can get through just about anything, because we have Lisa in here. I missed what you were saying, honey, in the beginning, but I believe what she's saying is that she had a pet and lost it, and something went wrong. Maybe she's blaming herself or something along that line, and she's been trying to rescue animals to make up for it ever since. That's not really a bad thing, but with the caveat of understand that you're not doing it to make up so much for what may have happened. That might have been something you and that animal had to go through together, and you're learning from it, but you're not letting the love stop. I think that's one mistake people make. I would never tell anybody if you lost a pet to go right out and get another one to replace that pet. That's not what I'm saying. You can never replace that pet. What you're doing is allowing the love to continue. We know it's hard. I don't want to love again because it hurts so much. But you're denying another animal that love.
Mhm.
Does this make
Yeah,
sense, Rob? That's how I feel.
absolutely. Yeah, and often the pets that I talk to on the other side want us to adopt another pet because they know we have love that can be given to a dog or cat or horse that needs that love.
Hmm.
Um, by the way, I just have to throw in a quick interjection here that
Hmm.
that Donnie in the chat room there has some incredible questions about
I know.
pets and stuff, and he wrote, I mean, obviously go for the light. Where else would you go? Well, Donnie, I want to tell you that as humans, animals tend to always go in the light, as I mentioned,
Hmm.
but as humans, um, we have the ability to make a conscious choice to stay here, earthbound, or to cross over.
Yep.
Now, all of the people that made that conscious choice are here as earthbound ghosts. Um, so, and the reason they've stayed behind is numerous.
Hmm.
Sometimes they feel like they can help their loved ones as an earthbound ghost, and they can't because they're stuck in that place that they chose. Um, um, Other times, I have found people who are deeply religious to often be the ones that choose to stay behind. And the reason is because when we die, we get kind of a quick review of how we lived our life, and they will see some of the bad things that they may have done that they think they're going to pay for on the other side, but they're not.
Hmm.
So they stay here out of fear of what's happening. They think they're going to go to a place called hell. Well, to me, hell is really being choosing to be a ghost, because what it is you are stuck in one place for the rest of your afterlife that only mediums can hear you.
Hmm.
Only mediums can help you. And what are the chances that a medium is going to walk into your place and
Hmm.
help you cross over?
Hmm.
So it's insanity to choose to be a ghost.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. And I think what we need to do is next time we'll have you on, maybe we can come up with the 50 things not to do to wind up being a ghost. Or it's like let go of your regret, your jealousy, your hatred, your anger, your regret. I mean, but that's true. And I think for that reason, Rob, is like you just said, that's why humans stay and why pets don't. Because they
Hmm.
don't get hung up with all those earthly burdens,
Hmm.
they go towards the love. They know what love is, and God help the ones that were never felt the love. I hope they get another chance. I'm so glad you said that they can, reincarnate. Donnie also had another question in the beginning. It was something similar to oh gosh, she was talking about the soul groups, but you answered that question and said that pets will go over there and wait till you reincarnate again and then come back as another pet in that life too. And I
Yeah, in
think
that life.
people
They
do
won't come
that.
back in this life, though.
Right. They come back in that one. And
Hmm.
I think our soul group does that. I've had many mediums and psychics and things like that are in the same like minded as we are that said that that's exactly what they do. Sometimes a guy like, old Uncle Ed might say, you guys go. I'm good this time. I'll catch you on the next one. I'm going to hang for a while. You guys go ahead, go back through. You know, there's people that'll wait and skip one or skip a couple. It's all about nobody's got the answer book. But what I've come to thinking is it's just about learning how to be a better human being.
Absolutely.
Get a higher vibration. Maybe not go back to get something right this time, but learn more about how to get it right or how to be kinder, how to be to go through pain, and how if we're going through pain, Robbie and I are here tonight to tell you that we've been through pain. We still feel pain. Rob's tears are still on the surface, and I guarantee you if I told you more of my stories, same would be with me. It's right there. It's right there. I can tell you about how my mother passed, and although it hurts me and it kills me, I know she's fine. She's come back and told me. But if I tell you about my dog, I'm going to lose it. I'm
Hmm.
going to lose it.
Like I did.
Yeah, because I looked in his eyes, Rob, as he's laying on the floor. Same thing with the Weimaraner. His something went, his back legs went, and I knew, and he was going, and he kept trying to get up to go where I was. So I laid on the floor with him, and we just stared in each other's eyes, and he would start to go, and then he'd jerk himself awake and look at me, and in that moment I knew. He wasn't staying for him. He wasn't scared to go. He was scared to leave me. He didn't know I was going to be okay. I
Yeah,
had to
Dolly
tell
did
him.
the same thing.
Same
She
thing.
didn't want to leave me. Yeah.
And there's your difference. There's your difference. That's what hurts your heart so much. And it hurts because you love them. And sometimes that brings up emotion, and that emotion hurts. But you know what hurts more? Never experiencing the love to begin with, Rob, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So please be kind to these animals. I told Rob this story, number one, before we go tonight. What we both are not real big on is when somebody says animals don't have souls. And I think that's
That's
the
the most
biggest,
ridiculous
it's the
thing in
most
the world.
ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And Rob and I are standing here tonight, and we're telling you, that's bunk.
And, Cisco, I used to get really mad at people who were ignorant
They
like
just
that,
don't
but
know.
but I now I have to laugh because
Hmm.
it's just so ridiculous. A
Hmm.
soul is memories, personality, and knowledge of the life that we lived on Earth. And every living thing has a soul.
Hmm.
Every living thing can cross over. So, um, I think that there are some people that may not have souls,
Or
but
maybe sold them. Maybe they sold their soul or something
maybe
like
they
that
sold
because
them.
they look empty. But I've never looked in
Yeah.
an animal's eyes
No.
and saw emptiness. I've
No.
seen fear. I've seen hope. I've seen, should I trust this person? And, if you get one like that, I would say now try to send something telepathically. I was feeding a cat that was gone last year. He was here when I got here, and he was old when I got here, but he was a feral. He didn't want nothing to do with, So I'd put food. We made him a shelter. Of course, he had his own somewhere, and he did fine. There was not a mark on this cat. He ruled the neighborhood. He had street cred like crazy, and he didn't come for a couple days. And I'd stand out there and I'd just close my eyes and I'd just try to telepathically pick up on what was going on around. And I got that he was doing that thing where he was kind of going off on his own to pass. And I said, if that's true, and I put it out there, if that's true, please, I've got a nice warm, I warmed up the food because it was winter, and I put it in a nice spot. And I said, come on and get a good meal. Come on and get a good meal. And I sent that out there. And I came back inside and I closed the door and I shut off the light and I could still see. And here he come. And when he got done eating, he walked away and I said, I'll see you on the other side, buddy. It's going to be okay. And the cat turned around and looked at me. And in that moment, I knew it was the last time I was ever going to see that cat. He
Wow.
was a feral that just a bit of love and kindness and care. We made sure that he had a little bit of that love before he left. So if that's all you can do to be kind, maybe being kinder to animals will teach us to be kinder to each other. Rob, what do you think?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely.
You have been absolutely wonderful. Do you believe that that was 2 hours?
My gosh.
How fast? As fast as 2 hours. What would you like to say? The rest of it's yours. Please tell us anything you'd like to give out tonight.
Well, we didn't even get to talk about Ghost and Spirits Explained tonight.
Oh, gosh. Well, tell us a little bit about that one.
Well, that's okay. We can talk about it another time.
Well, at least
It's
tell
just
us
my
what it's about.
Sure. It's my understanding about the basics of some of the things we've covered about the basics of energy and how ghosts, the
Hmm.
difference between ghosts and the difference between spirits and how they work and the signs that they give us and then I have a whole bunch of chapters in there of my experiences with both. One of the chapters is really cool. It's how my dad, after he passed away, he helped me um, prove to my own mother and brothers that he was at his own wake and funeral.
Wow.
Yeah, and they did. This was 2008. This was really uh, pivotal for my brothers who don't have the ability, and they, frankly, didn't think it was real until his funeral. Then they couldn't explain it. So that's in there. There's a whole bunch of other things in there.
Well, they're
But,
begging for you to come back. They want you
oh
back
my
next
gosh.
week. They want you back next week. They're just hitting me up with all this stuff. Please come back, Rob. Please come back. Look, 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 look,
Oh my
look, look.
gosh.
Please come back. Please. They love you. You know, I'm gonna.
Am I turning red?
And now I'm being threatened over here. Donnie's threatening. If you don't bring Rob back, I'm going to resent just a little bit. I understand. So funny. Absolutely. So why don't we do that? Take some time when you have time. Please come back and we'll talk about this book here. I think tonight we had plans on doing a couple things, but I had no idea there were so many people in here I think needed to hear this.
Yeah.
The timing is correct, I think.
So, and when I come back the next time, I think I would like to also try to answer questions. Everybody has had such great questions in the chat, and that I wish we could have gotten to them.
Absolutely.
There's some really fascinating some questions. So, but
Absolutely.
yeah, I would let I love to come back. You are just awesome.
It's great. And also Rob has a great YouTube channel now. You did a fantastic one. Go look for a couple of these where you explained, and I believe it was on the one where you were talking about your paranormal group with Troy and all the wonderful people that you investigate with, the book on that one, and you had a YouTube show on it. The amount of information that Rob and his crew give, it's the information you guys are looking for. It's wonderfully explained on these videos. It might be just the one where you had the face. I would love to next time. I'll have that ready for you. Can you tell a little bit about that face picture? What book is that in?
It's actually in two books. It was in my Lessons Learned from Talking to the Dead book. But that is our most popular case, and it's also in Case Files of Inspired Ghost Tracking, and I actually expanded it in that book. I put more details of the investigation in that book. The face is actually the face of one of the two women that were brutally murdered in this home that we went into, and we had no idea what had happened in the home at all. Troy, the other medium, and I, we had no background information on this home. We were only given the address 1 hour before we were supposed to be there, and it took us 1 hour to get there. So, and that's the way we like it. We don't like to know anything ahead. But it was the most crazy and terrifying case because these two women shared what happened to them, and we were able to confirm all this in a police report. I'll never forget it. But there are other things in the Case Files of Inspired Ghost Tracking, so maybe we can talk about that one too. So
absolutely, we're definitely going to schedule another show for you to come back, and I appreciate you spending so much time with us. The books are fantastic, whether you're interested in hearing what the animals had to say or what investigations Rob has been on with this wonderful group that he goes with, or the trip to England, or the next one coming up with the cats that's going to be released. And when did you see you're going to release that? Somewhere down in the next year or so?
Oh no, the cats one's going to be like 2024.
Okay.
So I have two books that I've been asked I've been asked to write one about the ghosts of Tombstone, the Birdcage Theater in Tombstone, Arizona that I encountered. Wow. There are 6 ghosts in Tombstone, Arizona, and when I went there 2 years ago, I didn't know that until they all talked to me.
Wow.
So that's going to be there. And I'm also writing my book about ghosts of Ireland and Scotland on a medium's vacation. So that's going to be kind of cool.
There you go. So you guys better get cracking and get some of these books and get caught up, because I'll tell you, every single one, the stories are wonderful. The insight is fantastic, and you see Rob's heart. I mean, this is what he does, and it's absolutely phenomenal. You're just one of my favorite people to have on here, Rob. So we're gonna get him back on, and we'll talk about all this wonderful stuff. What else do you want to tell them?
If you want a really short book, if you like to just read quick books, the Kindred Spirits book is 103 pages.
Okay.
This is Kindred Spirits. That's
Right
the
there.
one about my husband's late partner that is part of the triangle, I guess.
Yeah, gotta interject all this information. It's very interesting. Very good read.
Two chapters in there you will find absolutely fascinating. One, he sent a look-alike to rescue us when we were on vacation in England. And two, he helped me solve the mystery behind his death.
There you go.
After 15 years.
After 15 years. Look at that.
It's only $6.99 on Amazon, by the way.
And grab it and look at all that. And it'll teach you, if nothing else, it'll teach you to really recognize those little signs and those little miracles. Try the thing with sending good energy to your loved ones, and sending good thoughts and happy thoughts and laughing and jokes, like I say all the time. Instead of, it's going to make you sad, but before you know it, you'll be laughing and you'll be thinking about the good times that you really did spend together, and cherish them a little more till you get to see them again, because they're there. They're there on the other side, and they're going to be waiting for you, right, Rob?
Absolutely. Yep.
I can't thank you.
Everybody.
Absolutely. Be kind. It doesn't, to try to be kind. Put more love out there, right, Rob? Absolutely. Thank you so much. Everybody in the chat is dropping all your links. I think you're going to have new subscribers to your YouTube. I think it's wonderful. All links to all your books.
Oh, don't go to my YouTube. I look better on the radio.
And in person, and hopefully I'll get to talk to you to come on down to Hoover House. It's a little further away from Gettysburg and all that. It's very nice, and maybe we can all spend some time together and see what we find. I love you, man. Thank you so much for coming on, and I can't wait to have you back on again. We're gonna have a little bit of outro here. Thanks so much, chat, for being so nice. Sorry we missed some of the questions. Next time we'll do a whole little question section, and we'll just give you some more time here, because 2 hours just isn't enough with Rob Gutro. Oh, and here comes Mr. Dickens to say goodnight too. Can you hear him? Thank you, honey. So much. Be kind. Keep your feet under those covers, and keep your closet doors shut, because there are things that go bump in the night. And a special Halloween little factoid here. Don't moon werewolves. Good night, everybody. Love you, love you, love you.